Profiles in Cinemania, Matt Berry. Sometimes an actor plays a role so well that it creates the illusion of a given type of person. If this actor truly convinces the audience that they are indeed this person, that actor gets more work, playing basically that same character in another production. Fulfilling the audience's expectations is what pays the bills, after all. Then the actor starts leaning into the most distinctive elements of the character, repeating these steps ad nauseum until all we're left with is a caricature. This is the trap of typecasting. Sometimes an actor can get typecast as someone whom they're really not anything like. Wild, right? People just start to assume you're exactly like your most famous character without realizing this is just a day job. At home, you're a mostly nice guy, and maybe even a little boring compared to your on-screen persona. Hell, just ask Bruce Campbell, best known for playing Ash Williams in the Evil Dead series of movies and television shows. Ash Williams is a chauvinistic slob with the personality of a Carson City lounge singer who only accidentally happens to be a hero because he's the only one capable of facing down deadites anytime someone is stupid enough to read out loud from the Necronomicon. And yeah, sure, Bruce puts a lot of himself into the role, every actor does. That's what acting is. But the actual Bruce Campbell is none of these things. He just plays that role really well. The real Bruce is a kind, charitable, self-effacing guy who runs a lavender farm in his off time. A guy who is beloved by everyone who's had the privilege of working with him. But that's typecasting for you. Today's profile isn't about Bruce Campbell. Someday, maybe, we'll get to that guy. No, today's profile is about a completely different actor who has had the misfortune of being typecast. Once in a great while, an actor leans into the typecasting. They don't shy away from the caricature they've created. They incorporate nuance and intensity into these performances. Matt Berry is known for playing pompous, grandiose, self-absorbed assholes as foul-mouthed and oversexed as they are dim-witted. But in truth, the real man is absolutely none of these things. He just plays them very well, blending highbrow and lowbrow in a way that is almost as compelling as we do at the Cinemania Society, which should have been obvious to you, dear listener, if you had been capable of understanding the unvarnished genius of our writing. Matthew Charles Berry was born in 1974 to a working-class Jewish family in Bromham, Bedfordshire, England. Matt Berry was born in a time when class mobility still actually existed, when it was actually possible for a person to climb the ladder of society based on actually being bright and creative, as opposed to simply being born with money and privilege. And Berry was extremely bright and creative, a lad who showed an early aptitude for music and performance. Speaking of performance, Matt got his start acting for the public at the London Dungeon in the mid-90s. In England, they like their tea strong, the beer strictly room temperature, and the amusements to be terrifying. The London Dungeon is a little place on the east shore of the Thames, in the touristy part of London, that is sort of like a permanent Halloween haunted house, but which features real historical implements of torture. Well, the torture implements are real in that they are antiques with a dark and sordid history of torturing looky-loos out of hard-earned cash because they're antique fakes of reputed Dark Ages torture devices. As an actor/docent, Berry led tourists through the London Dungeon, including certain teenaged members of the Cinemania Society. Berry's term in the London Dungeon was presumably enough to win him his first gig as an official TV actor on the B-Sky B program Game Over in 1998. This series was essentially a televised video game magazine which also catered to retro game nostalgia. This was the type of low-budget network filler that got utterly buried by YouTube a few years later, but for that briefest of moments, it allowed Berry to craft a caricature of a pompous old man that would carry him through his career. Berry next surfaced on Channel 4 in the 2002 series Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, a lovingly crafted satire of Thatcher-era horror novels and their television spin-offs. The friends he made there got him on other shows, millennial cult favorite The Mighty Boosh, and then in the second season of BBC comedy series The It Crowd. His role as Nepo baby Douglas Renham was definitive for his career. This character was a dim-witted and overprivileged buffoon in charge of things, and Berry played it to the hilt. He followed this up with the almost inaccessibly weird series Snuffbox, which he co-produced with the American comedian Rich Fulcher, a former co-star from Boosh. Throughout the mid-2000s, he made appearances across a constellation of other shows popular with millennial hipsters on either side of the pond. These included the Peter Serafinowicz Show, Portlandia, and stoner humor vehicle Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Berry built his career as an actor in the fashion of a musician. He made incremental progress, building up his skills through practice. The 20-teens saw Berry distill his character acting in a series he wrote, produced, and scored, Toast of London, which won him a BAFTA, and spawned the sequel series Toast of Tinseltown. Berry starred as Stephen Toast, a pompous, self-absorbed, oversexed, middle-aged wash-up pursuing an acting career, such as it was, in London and then later in Hollywood. These series were packed with industry in-jokes and self-deprecating humor, all based on Berry's experiences and observations in his own career. But don't make the mistake of thinking this series is autobiographical. Remember, he's an actor playing a part. The success of Toast led Berry to what ended up being his breakthrough to the global mainstream in FX's hit television series What We Do in the Shadows, a series that mashes up Interview with a Vampire with The Office. This was a small screen spin-off of a 2014 feature by the same name, one on which the society will surely turn its jaundiced lens at some point. In Shadows, Berry plays Laszlo Cravensworth, a vampire known for being, what else, pompous, self-absorbed, and oversexed. In recent years, Matt Berry has begun branching out from comedy into more dramatic roles. In 2021, he played the droid 9D9 in the critically panned Book of Boba Fett, and in 2023, he played Pumblechook in the gritty premium cable adaptation of Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. Throughout all of this, Berry quietly produced album after album of music. We did mention he was a talented musician, right? Since 1995, he has produced 11 studio albums in a variety of styles, but usually something that feels like it could have come from the 70s, something which shows off both his deep nostalgia and his signature mix of quirky highbrow and lowbrow humor and...
Andy.
Excuse me, no.
Hey, Andy.
Sod off.
Andy, tell him about the KPM tracks.
No, I refuse to enable your fanatical obsession with that music.
Give me the goddamn mic. Come here. Give me here. Got it.
How dare you? This
Profiles in Cinemania. KPM. KPM is a library of royalty-free production music with a history dating all the way back to 1830. Originally Keith Prowse and Company Music, one of the first and most important musical instrument manufacturers and music publishers in the United Kingdom, and then a theater ticket resale agency that was basically the Victorian equivalent of Ticketmaster, KPM arose when its music publishing arm was merged with the Peter Maurice Publishing Company in the mid-1950s. KPM became one of the premier production music libraries in the Western world. KPM music and musical stings were heavily featured in newsreels, feature films, animation, and television programs for nearly half a century on both sides of the Atlantic. At one point, virtually every studio, post house, and television station in the US and UK had a set of KPM records. If you watched English-language movies or television from any point in the latter half of the 20th century, you will have heard a KPM track, and probably one you would recognize in a way you couldn't quite put your finger on. Ever see a Pathé newsreel? KPM. The Monday Night Football theme? KPM. The music cues and title tracks from hit 1970s detective series The Sweeney? Also KPM. Kentucky Fried Movie? KPM. Ren and Stimpy? KPM, KPM, KPM. I just have to say, dun, 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 and you're recognizing a KPM music sting. From the late 1960s through the early 1980s, composers like Brian Bennett, Alan Hawkshaw, the late great Keith Mansfield, and others contributed to something that was like musical wallpaper for pop culture, something simultaneously ubiquitous and almost completely unnoticed. Until the late 90s and early 2000s, when British DJs got hold of all the library vinyl being pitched out by television stations going out of business, and began spinning and remixing tracks swiped from KPM green sleeves and brown sleeves. In late 2023, Matt Berry dropped an album, sold to KPM, called Simplicity, that paid tribute to the signature KPM style and can be...
Take this, miscreant! hijack my profile piece, will you? Yeah, you know karate, but I know Dow, the company that makes mace. Take that, you pirating fucker! At this point, in a profile in Cinemania, we would usually describe the interesting points of an actor's actual personality and personal history, except that he doesn't really have any. Matt Berry is a pretty ordinary, boring dad of five you would scarcely notice at a gas station diner. Outside of the carefully created characters he portrays, Matt Berry could be any working-class Jewish guy who maybe looks vaguely like that one guy on the telly. But why should that matter? Because for grade A entertainment, when you're looking for a character with a capital C, Matt Berry towers above the crowd, even if in real life he's only 5'10". This has been another Profile in Cinemania. This episode was written by Ethan Ireland, Andrea Palladino, and Andy Slack, and was performed by Andy Slack and Ethan Ireland. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.